Imagine you have a house sitting on top of a massive gold mine, but someone else has been taking that gold for decades while you struggle to pay your bills. That's essentially what's been happening to Africa for over 60 years. But right now, something remarkable is happening. Countries across the continent are finally saying enough is enough, and they're taking back control of their wealth in ways that are reshaping the entire global economy. Let me share some numbers that might shock you. Back in 2015, African nations received about $162 billion in aid, loans, and money sent home by citizens working abroad. That sounds like a lot of help, right? But here's the part nobody talks about. That same year, $203 billion was taken out of Africa through mining companies shipping resources overseas, debt payments to foreign banks, illegal fishing and logging, and corporations dodging taxes. Africa actually lost over $40 billion that year. This isn't a continent that's poor because it lacks resources. It's poor because the wealth has been systematically taken away for generations. Think about this. The Democratic Republic of Congo has an estimated $24 trillion worth of minerals still in the ground. That's more than the entire economy of the United States. South Africa has about $2.5 trillion in mineral wealth underground. Yet in the DRC, 95% of people survive on less than $2 per day. How can a country sitting on $24 trillion have people starving on the surface? The answer is brutally simple. For decades, foreign companies owned those resources, dug them up, paid almost no taxes, and shipped all the profits back to their home countries. African governments typically got only 5 to 20% of the value, if they were lucky. Everything started changing around 2020. People in countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger were watching foreign troops supposedly protecting them, but security kept getting worse. They were watching mining companies haul away gold and uranium while their communities had no electricity, no clean water, and no hospitals. They started asking one simple but powerful question. If we have all this wealth under our feet, why are we still struggling? When their governments couldn't answer that question, the people demanded change. In Burkina Faso, the new leadership came to power in 2022 and immediately started talking about taking control of their own resources. By October 2024, they announced that foreign businesses would no longer easily exploit their country's wealth. They threatened to cancel mining licenses for Western companies. The stock market went into panic mode. One Canadian gold mining company saw its share price drop 15% in a single day. 2 other Canadian companies fell by 10% each. This wasn't just talk. In August 2024, Burkina Faso nationalized 2 major gold mines from a British company, paying $80 million for mines that had been valued at $300 million. They simply took them back. Mali took things even further. In September 2024, their government demanded $512 million from a Canadian mining giant for back taxes covering several years. The company refused to pay. So Mali arrested 4 of their employees. Then they blocked the company from exporting any gold. Then they seized about 3 tons of gold worth millions of dollars. The mining company stopped all operations. Mali's government, which owned 20% of the mine, asked the court to reopen it under temporary national control. When the company appealed to international tribunals, Mali basically said they didn't care about foreign courts. This was their gold, and they were taking it back. Niger did something similar after kicking out French troops. For decades, France had been buying uranium from Niger at bargain prices to power French nuclear plants. Niger produces some of the world's highest quality uranium, but the deals signed decades ago meant they got almost nothing for it. The new government looked at those old contracts and said, these deals were signed when we were basically still a colony, and we're renegotiating everything. This pattern spread across West Africa. Chad cut all defense ties with France and told French troops to leave. Senegal announced that all foreign military forces would withdraw. Ivory Coast told 600 French soldiers to hand over their base and go home. One by one, 6 countries told France to pack up. And when those troops left, all those mining contracts and resource deals that had been protected by French political and military power suddenly became open for renegotiation. But this movement isn't just about one country or one region. Zambia spent 4 years renegotiating mining contracts and announced plans to control at least 30% of critical minerals production from future mines. That might not sound like much, but it's triple what many African countries used to get. The Democratic Republic of Congo renegotiated massive deals it had signed with Chinese companies back in 2008 and got better terms, with China agreeing to invest $7 billion in infrastructure instead of the previous $3 billion. Botswana pulled off something even more impressive. After 6 years of negotiations with De Beers, the giant that has dominated the diamond industry for over a century, they signed a new agreement in February 2025. Under this new deal, Botswana increased its share of diamonds for processing inside the country from 25% to potentially 50%. That means half the diamonds mined in Botswana will now be cut and polished there, creating jobs for local workers and building an actual diamond industry instead of just shipping raw stones overseas. Ghana created a government agency with sweeping powers over the gold trade. Large mining companies in Ghana now have to sell up to 20% of the gold they plan to export directly to this government agency first. Essentially, Ghana said, if you want to mine or export gold from here, you're going through us first, and we're taking our cut. Let's talk about what all this means in real money terms. The African Development Bank estimates that Africa's mineral wealth is worth over $30 trillion. For decades, Western companies were pulling this wealth out, while African countries got maybe 5 to 10% of the value. If foreign companies were extracting even $100 billion worth of resources per year, and African governments only got 10%, that's $90 billion leaving the continent annually that should have stayed. Over 20 years, that's $1.8 trillion, and that's a conservative estimate. When Burkina Faso nationalized those 2 gold mines, that was $220 million staying in Burkina Faso instead of going to shareholders in London. When Mali seized 3 tons of gold, that's roughly $180 million. When the DRC renegotiated its cobalt deal and got an extra $4 billion in infrastructure investment, that's money that wouldn't have existed under the old deal. When Botswana secured the right to process half its own diamonds, that's potentially billions of dollars in added value staying in Botswana. And it's not just about the money that stays. It's about the jobs, the skills, and the industries that get built. When you export raw minerals, you create one job for the person who digs it up. When you process those minerals locally, you create hundreds of jobs. You need engineers, technicians, factory workers, and specialists. You build expertise. You create a middle class. You generate tax revenue for schools and hospitals. African countries now have something they never had before: options and leverage. If the United States offers a deal they don't like, they can talk to China. If China's terms aren't good enough, they can talk to India, Russia, or the UAE. This competition is driving up the value of deals for African countries. Is this revolution perfect? No. Some of these governments are authoritarian. Corruption will still be a problem. Mistakes will be made. But for the first time in decades, African countries have the power to negotiate as equals. They have the power to say no. Every mine that gets nationalized, every contract that gets renegotiated, represents money staying in Africa instead of disappearing to shareholders in wealthy countries. This is the largest transfer of wealth back to Africa in modern history. Every single contract signed in the last 60 years is now being looked at with fresh eyes. And one simple question: does this benefit us, or does this benefit them? If the answer is them, those contracts are getting rewritten. The revolution isn't over. It's just getting started. If you found this story eye-opening, Subscribe to One Africa and share this video with everyone who needs to understand what's really happening on the continent. Hit that notification bell so you never miss updates on Africa's economic transformation. Together, we're spreading the truth about Africa's rise. Join our community today.